Oh man, here we go. All right. So let's see what happens when I stream and record at the same time. I don't expect a lot of good things, but we'll see. Okay, so we're going to be working on, I decided I'm going to do a soccer game. I have like 1,000 examples that I could walk you through, and I'm not going to. I'm going to do a soccer game. So the name of this game is going to be some sort of soccer, or S cubed, I guess would be the other name for it. So we could call it like soccer cubed. I kind of like that. I'm going to do it in 3D. Since it's soccer cubed, perhaps we'll just play as a bunch of cubes as their player characters. Make, I think my stream used to call him the Sleaze Man. Something like that. The Sleaze Man. All right. So let's start off with a soccer field. And I like to be able to see my game at least in some way, shape, or form. Doesn't have to be great. That works for me. So game object, create 3D object. We're gonna go with a cube. That starts really high up for some reason, so let's zero that out and flatten it out. Flatten, widen. That kind of looks like a soccer field, right? Potentially, maybe. I actually don't know what a soccer field looks like, and I'm going to be far too lazy to actually make a full soccer field. So let's make a new folder. We'll call this materials. And into there, we'll make a new material, ground material. We're just going to change its albedo to a delicious kind of green. And drop that on there for our first one. We do have a directional light already, so that's good. Oh, that's no good. Let me fix this real fast. I think lower left-hand corner is going to be a decent space for my beautiful face here. And I think that my recording is going to be much better than my stream is going to be, because my internet is a pile of garbage. One day I'll get better internet. Oh cool, look at my soccer field. That's not the direction I want it to go. Let's rotate it. Rotation 90 that way. That looks a little better. Let's grab a camera. I'm just going to assume that my stream will fix itself at some point. Or I will call my ISP at some point and tell them to quit being so crappy. Let's make a new folder. This new folder is going to be called scripts. Very very wordy there. And then now that we have the ground there, I'm also going to pull this camera down just a little bit. So I pulled it up, and I'm also going to angle it down a bit. So now I have this kind of angled view. Making the next Rocket League. No, it's not going to be that good, unfortunately. It's going to be much, much worse. But it's going to be like an hour and a half worth of instruction for my students that you all can hang out and watch with me. I want to be working on a stream game, and I'll be doing that after GDC. I have this idea that I think I just need to finally go for. So I need some corners for this too. So we're going to rename this to ground. F2, rename that to ground. Game object. Let's create a new 3D object. Let's just make another cube. Where are you, cube? Actually, might need to increase the amount of space that we have here too. Up that a little bit, but this will do for now. I feel like my students are tired of seeing me make things that look like this. Rocket League. I might actually turn off the cubes and just keep my mesh renders here for now. Alright, so if I remove that component, and I remove that component, now I just have a box collider, so I just have the invisible space, and I think I actually like that more than the visible one. I forget, is there a way, like you can do icons for them, but that's not what I want. There used to be a way to do gizmos so you could see the invisible stuff. Selection wire. I'm actually not that, I don't know that one offhand. Oh well. When are you going to make indie Animal Crossing? Or what if Animal Crossing had streaming features? Don't get me started. If I had the time and money to make indie Animal Crossing, I would definitely be doing it. Like, I have this really maybe terrifying idea for Animal Crossing that's like, copy V, we're gonna do another wall, but this one we're gonna have to rotate. I have this idea for like an Animal Crossing, but the animals in there are all bots that are Markov chain, like trained on your friend's speech patterns. There's actually bots that like semi-represent your friends, and your friends can control your what they say, so they can since it's their representation, they can control like what they wear and maybe give them some voice lines to say that aren't just from the Markov chain, everything like that. Okay, so now we have wall 1 there, and then I'm going to duplicate that again, so hit Control D to duplicate, pull it over there, and now we have a world with bounds. Cool. In fact, let's put that into an empty game object. Don't let your dreams be dreams. That's like 2 or 3 Black Mirror episodes in one. Yeah, I know. So it is kind of creepy, and that's why I haven't never really gone for it. But I think there might be something there. Game bounds. It would definitely require a little bit of playing around with the ideas and the concepts. But I like this idea of like, there's an Animal Crossing where the people that you interact with can have input from your friends in other ways. Because it's part of the fun, right? Like, I think it's part of the fun is interacting with your friends in online spaces, and that would be a slightly different way of doing it. Okay, so now we've got bounds. Let's go ahead and put our goals in here too. Let's represent the goal. I don't have like an easy layout here, so I'm just going to represent the goal with, let's do 2 cylinders. So a cylinder, and this world definitely needs to get a little bit bigger. I'm just going to select all of it and scale it up a bit. It's a little bit better. Okay. So Markov chain to use in the machine learning stuff that scrapes their social media. That was my idea originally. I actually don't know the difference between a Markov chain and the machine learning stuff I'd have to do. I'm sure there is some major difference that I'm just not keyed in on. Maybe this isn't the best way to do a goal. Copy, paste. It looks more like American style football-y. I mean, really all I gotta do then is like a fake net behind it, right? So let's do that. So 2 cylinders, and then we're actually gonna put this inside of a create empty, call this goal. So goals comprise of 2 cylinders, and we're gonna do 2 cubes for nets, 2D object. Actually, we might do just a plane. Does a plane have a collider? Looks like it does. Pull that up here. Wow, you are way down there, aren't you? It's also huge. It's huge. All right. Whoa, I don't need to be in 2D mode. Pull that in, and then I want to rotate it up. How do I do this in world space instead of this stupid space? Like, no one ever needs to do this in stupid space. Oh, they probably do. I know I've done it once or twice where I need it in dumb space like this. Whoa, that's not the axis I want to rotate on. Rotate. All right. So down a little bit more. Scale you up a little bit more. Cool. That's not quite gonna work the way I thought it was going to. Isn't there a way to make two-sided planes? Or am I going nuts? A CA pre-dinner Saturday. I might not though. It depends on when Train Jam gets in, because I'm train jamming in. Machine learning definitely sounds like the way I wanted to go then. Something that like actually seemed like an interesting way. Damn, that's stupid. I thought there was like a way to have a plane and make it two-sided. It's like it really does just make sense to make a like a box collider instead. Not a box. 3D object. Cube. I think Train Jam comes in on around 4 p.m. It might be a little bit earlier, it might be a little bit later. A two-sided plane. It's just a really thin cube. That's some deep stuff right there. Really deep stuff. All right, so let's rotate that up. And scale it up. Whoa, am I back in 2D mode again? No, what did I do this time? All right, good enough. And then, man, how are we gonna do a collider for this space though? That's dumb. Game object, 3D object, sphere, cube, capsule, cylinder, plane, quad. I'm tempted to just do a plane and rotate it for each side. Like, this is dumb, but it would work. Rotate it up. I'd have to do the cube again. Let's do that. Copy V. Click center local up top to make a world. Center local. Aha, there we go. Okay, so move this over, rotate it around. You know what, I'm just gonna make a new cube. 3D object, cube. Fold up, fold over, fold up. Shrink. Push over. And then rotate you. Oh yes, the world's best soccer net. For sure. I love it. Maybe I'll go with that square soccer net I was gonna do originally instead of all the stupid rotation stuff. Alright, we'll go back up to square with you. Copy V, pull you up, rotate you over. Duplicate again. Rotate you up to, I'm just gonna get a 0, 0, and then 90. Perfect. Over. Scale you down. And then copy V again. Over. There. That's what I was originally imagining, and I got distracted. Definitely not perfect, but that's not what I'm here for. And then the last thing we need in here is create empty. This will be our collision zone. Add component, box collider, add collider. Oh no. Before we do that, why is that 0, 0, 0? Is this all the way up here? Okay, fine. Get the center of that collider near the center of this. And now we're gonna add a collider to not be so ridiculous. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. That looks decent. Does it go around back? It does look like it pokes out just a little bit. There. Cool. Our beautiful, beautiful strike zone. Let's save the scene also, so I'll call this game scene. Save. Alright, so now we have our one goal. I'm going to rename, well actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new folder called prefabs. And into prefabs I'm going to drag goal. And this goal now is going to be called goal 1 because we're about to duplicate that goal. So Control D. Actually I've got prefabs, I'm just going to drag in the second goal. There it is. And this of course goes on the other side of the world. Ideally it's at about the same axis, right? Spin it around. Maybe put it at a jaunty angle, right? Like maybe it's one of those soccer games and everything's just a little bit weird. Yeah. This is how I think soccer was meant to be played. Kind of like golf, but with multiple people on the field at the same time. All right, so we've got our initial things set up here. We're gonna have to make a script for them pretty soon, but let's make our players next, or let's get our players started at the very least. And since apparently I called this, what was it, like S cubed, I decided our players are just gonna be cubes, so let's make empty. Does empty make the most sense for this? Yes and no at the same time. Game object, yeah, we'll do empty actually, and then inside of that empty, so let's make a new empty game object and then call it player. And then inside there, so I'm going to right click on it, I'm going to go down 3D object and we'll select cube. Player, are you not at 0, 0, 0? Get back to 0, 0, 0. Cool, so there's that. I'm going to keep player at 0, 0, 0, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull cube up. So cube itself, see cube selected over my hierarchy, it should be a little bit higher up, so it's higher up. And this is going to be a cubic soccer game. But we definitely need faces for a cube. So I'm going to go ahead and make faces and materials. So new material, we'll call this Q player map. And I'm gonna make a new material, eye material. So I'm gonna make eyes. Eyes are, of course, they need to be black. So we'll make them pretty close to black. And then player, let's make them orangish for now. So kind of an orangish color. Ooh, I don't like that. I actually really don't like that. I'm feeling that color, whatever that color is. All right, and then let's make eyes for this player. 3D object. Spheres? I think I did spheres before. Shrink it down. Pull it out. Duplicate. There we go. Eye material. Eye material. And now we have our beautiful player. Isn't he great? We could do a mouth too, but I'm not gonna recreate Sleazebox entirely yet. Sleazebox being the name that one of my streamer viewers called this before. Okay, so now we have almost all the basic interaction. We have one more thing that we need to make, and that is the ball for this game. And the player's gonna get more complex, but for now, let's just go ahead and drag player into our prefabs folder as well. So we'd have two prefabs now, one for player and one for our goal. Go ahead and drag a second player in there and rotate him around so that it's facing the opposite direction. And now we have our two players for this game. It's gonna be a two-player game. That's as many players as our game needs, I think, or ever will desire. Should we do like a background to this game? So like game object, 3D object, cube. It's huge. Let's bring it a little bit closer. There we go. Now we have an exciting background to the game too. It's beautiful, right? Let's make a material for that just in case we want to modify it later on. So new material, BG map. And I don't know, what's the background color for this game? It's underwater, so it's a dark blue. We're now living in the void, experiencing the void. The last thing we're gonna have to make here to get started is game object, 3D object. Well, we need a soccer ball, right? So sphere. Let's make it obnoxiously large. So hit R, scale that thing up. Yeah, that seems about right. Seems like a good size for our sphere. Oh wait. It needs to be able to fit inside our goal. It does, good, cool. Sweet, so now we have all the pieces for our game. Now what's left is to start hooking this game up and getting it working. Let's see here, cube, that's our background, so let me rename that. There's only a few more pieces that we're gonna have to make for this game to work. We're gonna do particle effects at some point in here. But for now, let's start getting some of this working. Number one, well, we do have our ball in here. It's really not hooked up to work the way that we'd want it to. So I'm gonna rename it to ball first off so we know what it is, not just sphere. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add a component, a rigid body to it. So it's got the sphere collider and it's got the rigid body. So if something else with a collider runs into it, it'll actually start pushing it around, which is exactly what we're kind of looking for the initial soccer phase at the very least. Cool. And then let's go ahead and make our movement script. Again, I'm just going to do a really simple movement script. It's going to be a little bit more complex this time, only because we're going to have to do two variations, one for player 1 and one for player 2. So we'll call this player movement. And then go ahead and double click that and get that loaded up inside of your code editor. All right. So void update if input dot button down get button string button name. So we want input.getButton, and there's a couple ways in which we can do this, but what I'm going to do, instead of writing like WASD or whatever in this case, I'm going to split it up a little bit differently and have it so that up here we define what these things are. So public left, oh actually, because I was going to do this the crappy way, right? Project settings, input, axes, and I have our horizontal and vertical already, right? So horizontal and vertical are already set up to be WASD, up, down, left, and right. Also the joypad on our mouse stick, right? But left and right, up, down, I'm going to get rid of these alts here. So A and D. S and W are going to go. So now I have horizontal and vertical. And let's go through this one more time because this is meant to be for you, the beautiful students. How do I get to this page? Well, that's under Edit, Project Settings, Input. And that's going to pull up this thing when you go to Edit, Project Settings, Input. And under that, you get to these. I'm going to drop down horizontal and vertical. And I'm going to change the name horizontal to horizontal 1 and vertical to vertical 1. And then here, keep negative and positives down and up, left and right. That's cool, but get rid of the alt negative and the alt positive for both of those. So now we've gotten rid of those two things. And we have this beautiful bit of interaction here instead. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to up this. See where it says axes size 18 there? I'm going to add 2 to it and say axes now is size 20. It's going to add 2 new elements here down the bottom, cancel and cancel, and we're going to write horizontal 2 and vertical 2. Okay, so my negative button here, horizontal, we left this as left and right, right? So my horizontal, my negative is going to be A, my positive is going to be D. My vertical, my negative is going to be W, and my positive is going to be S. Let's make sure that's right. Down and up, so positive is up. So my negative is actually S and my positive is W. So what I've done here is I've actually set up 2 virtual joypads, one responding to WASD, the second one responding to up, down, left, and right. So now we've got these 2 different ones. I can come back into the code we were writing, and we can say public string input.getButton. So public string vertical axis and public string horizontal axis tal, not tull. T-A-L. Oh, I did it. And then T-L-E for the other one. Yep. I'm so bad at horizontal and vertical. All right, so we have now public strings for those two things. So instead of doing input.get button, which I'm going to need later, we're going to customize this for one more thing. But we're just going to do input.get access. And this is going to be my horizontal. So horizontal axis, and I'm not even going to do this inside an if statement. I really screwed that one up. So input.get access horizontal. Let's just make a vector out of this. So new vector2 input.get axis horizontal, and then horizontal vertical, comma, input.get axis vertical axis. And then we're going to say vector2 is equal to vector2 input vals is equal to what we just wrote in there. So vector2 input vals equals new vector2 input.get axis horizontal axis, comma, input.get axis vertical axis. So with those things, we now have this thing that's telling me the numbers of how much up, down, left, or right is being input in there. And we're going to do this. Oh, what way did we do it before? Do I want to do velocity, or do I just want to move this thing around like we've done previously, like with the player collider? Velocity is nice, but I think in this case, well, player controller actually isn't useful for us in this case either. So let's go to this first player here. I'm going to select the first player here on I'm going to select the first player here on the page, and I'm going to go ahead and add component to him, and I'm going to add a rigid body, and I'm also going to add a box collider, and I'm going to edit that box collider because it's going to be a little tiny. So add collider, actually it's not bad, it just needs to come up a little bit. So I'm going to pull that collider up so it represents the character's amount on the thing. Undo edit collider, and then with this player selected, I'm going to hit apply to make that apply to every single player. So if I go click on this player too, also now you'll see that he's got a rigid body and a thing as well. In fact, while we're at it, let's go ahead and freeze his rotation. Don't really care so much about freezing position, but I don't want him tilting over. I'm going to hit apply one more time. What that does is it applies it to the prefab itself down here inside the prefabs folder, and also duplicates it for all the other objects here on the game. So I did it with him and I applied it to the prefab, it now applies to that character as well. Awesome. Okay. So let's come back. We need to update our movement code a little bit. Since we have our horizontal and vertical axis, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and make the things that aren't for me to edit publicly. I'm going to make a private rigid body, RB. And then inside my initialization, I'll say RB is equal to this.get component, rigid body, open close parentheses. So down here I can use the rigid body for motion. For now, let's do something like RB dot add force input vals. And I'm just interested to see in what direction we're moving, because these are things I never memorized correctly. So now on player here, let's go ahead and attach that component that I did, which was called movement script or something like that, player movement. And you'll note that I need to specify what my horizontal axis is. Let's go ahead and just click apply real fast so that this is applied to both. So if I go click on the other player, I'll see immediately that there is player movement now being applied to both of them. And I'm going to specify for this one vertical 1 and horizontal 1. as my input axes for that one. And then for player 2, let's actually rename this to player 2 instead of player with a 1 out there because it's going to confuse me. I'll call this one vertical 2 and horizontal 2. So now we have both of those things set up. This one is pointing towards vertical 1 and horizontal 1 that we set up inside of our edit project settings input, right? And have vertical 1, horizontal 2, and vertical 2 there. And then here, this is pointing towards the second axis. Let's see what happens. I expect it to break beautifully. Let's find out. Oh, there's my game. My game is super tiny over there, and I'm not getting any motion whatsoever. Can I make them equal? Let's check that real fast. Update. Let's log out those input vowels. See what we're actually getting. Click play. Nothing. Should be a way to collapse only when I get new values. Yeah, okay, so I'm getting new values. Good. Good. But my add force is really low, so let's try this. Input vowels. Now let's just multiply it down here. Input vowels times 100 F. So multiply it by 100. This would be like the speed essentially. Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah. Nice. Oh no. Definitely going in the wrong direction, which is kind of funny. I like that he flies upwards instead of moves in the direction that I want him to. It's almost as fast as I want it to be too. Let's go ahead and just make a public string speed, a string, good lord, float speed, and set it to like, I don't know, 35 to start with. And then down here, instead of this hard-coded magic number of 100, we'll just do speed. Second thing that we need to fix here is that I'm thinking in a 2D mode, but this is actually 3D world that we're doing. So I'm going to change this vector 2 to vector 3. And then I'm going to lock our y direction to 0f. So we're not actually applying any upward momentum or downward momentum. We're just doing an x and y direction. And so now we've got this new speed. It defaults to 35, which should be enough to at least get some motion. Let's see, does it? Yeah. Yeah, and now I've got my characters moving around. Thunk. Perfect. I don't really need it to be much more than this. Oh no! Let's also quickly go in and freeze the Y position so he can't fly up off the ball. Oh dude, look at him slide around. It's beautiful. Cool. All right. So we've got our players set up now, kind of like they can move around. Let's write the script next for our goals. And to get that started, let's go ahead and hop back to our ball, because for our collision script, right, this is a common thing that we've done multiple times before. But we're going to want to set it up so that we so that we can like respond to a collision, and that means we're going to have to tag it. So I'm going to go to ball, I'm going to go down to add tag, and I'm going to click plus to create a new tag, and we'll just name it ball. So we have our new tag. Now this trips me up all the freaking time, but even though I have named this thing, it does not mean that it's actually set yet. You need to go back there and then go down to ball and tag it as ball. So now it's tagged as ball, and it's named ball also, so it's very ball-like, I suppose. It's beautiful, right? It's just such a beautiful game. You want to have fun, like real fast. Let's go to, with ball selected, go to component. Oh, where is this? I think they moved it at some point. Miscellaneous, right? Effects. There we go. Trail render. This is just for fun, right? So with ball selected, component effects, trail render. It's gonna look like a big pink trail right now, but you can customize that. So let's go with ball selected. We'll go down to trail render. I don't really care about casting shadows. Color. So let's do color at the start. The top here is alpha, so let's have it fade a little faded out to start with, and just have it fade out to nothing. So just by playing with those two top pieces on the color, you'll get an effect that looks a little bit more like that. You can kind of maybe see through it a little bit. Maybe not. I think we need a material applied to it too, and it doesn't have a decent material yet. We'll get there. Maybe I should stop messing with this right away. Here's width. The width is always at 100. Let's also do that. So I'm going to right click on that red and say add key, and pull that down. So we'll start at let's start at a width of 0.5 and go down to 0. And now if I come in and I hit it, you'll see that, yeah, it's beautiful. I'm actually going to leave it. Well, since we're here, let's make a material for it. So let's go into materials, create material, trail material. I feel like I've done this bit for y'all before, maybe not. And we're gonna get out of the standard shader that I'm not a big fan of anyway. We're gonna go down to particles, and let's just do additive soft for now. I believe that's what I need. And then go back, find the ball, find that trail render where it says materials, drop that down. You'll see there's size 1, element 0 is nothing. Go ahead and drop on there trail material. I believe the effect looks quite a bit nicer now. Yeah, you'll see that it actually does blend out. It's got that alpha that I had you guys set up to start with. You can kind of knock it around. It looks like wind. It's beautiful. Okay, so ball's been tagged. We took a little digression into making a trail for the ball, but the ball's been tagged. We made that trail render. The next thing we need to do is create the script to respond to the ball coming in here. So let's make that script. Go into your scripts, right click, create, C# script. Let's call this, what are these things called? Goal script. Hit enter, double click on that script. Whatever, do what you gotta do. All right, and then this, of course, is going to be responding to, I'll leave these things, let's get rid of void update at the very least. We don't need it right now. So this is actually going to respond to an on trigger enter. Oh cool, it autofilled for me. So private void on trigger enter, capital O, T, and E for on trigger enter, and then collider other is the thing we're looking for. And then inside of here, if other dot, is it hashtag? Game object, what is it so mad about? Oh, other, wow. Other dot hashtag, compare tag. So other dot compare tag, and we're looking for ball. So if it has the tag ball, then what we want to do is increment score. But I don't know how to do that yet. And reset ball. Maybe play some particles. All right, so there's a couple things that we might want to do. In fact, I might want to play the particles first and then increment score and reset ball. But this kind of, it feels good as like a response to a ball entering into a scoring zone, right? Boom, like some confetti plays to show you that something happened. And then we add 1 to whatever our game score is, and then we reset the ball. So what should we do first? Let's work on resetting the ball. To do that, we need to know where to put the ball at. So I'm going to make a public game object. Actually, we could just do a transform. So public transform respawn position. Okay, so public transform respawn position. And let's come back into our game here for a second. And I'm going to go to game object, create empty, call this ball spawn position. And then with that selected, I'm gonna go ahead and drop down this little selection icon here. And I don't know, I kind of like this little orange dot to represent the ball spawn location. And then get that, let me quickly get to 0, 0, 0. And then get that to about where the ball should spawn. So I'd say about there is where my ball spawn position should be. If you put it further up, by the way, it will like kind of fall in from the sky. So that could be kind of fun. We'll do it up there. Cool. So now we have that up and running. What's next? Right, so that's there. Let's go and attach our scripts. So our goal script to our goals, and we're gonna have to customize the goal for just a second too, because we're missing something. So go to collision zone here. I'm gonna go ahead and drop goal script onto collision zone. And then you'll note that on this collision zone also, it's not yet a trigger. So go ahead and select is trigger for that. Because we've modified this goal and we want those changes to also apply to this other goal on this side, go ahead, select goal as a whole and click apply. So now if I come over to this goal and I click on its collision zone also, I should be seeing that it's a trigger and also has the goal script. The troubling to me is the goal script does not yet have respawn position. It is not saving for me. Why is it not saving? Is there an error in my code? No, no error in my code. You can see that little star there, it means it's unsaved. Wow, okay. Let's copy all this real fast, close it. Yeah, sure, go ahead and try to save. If it saves, it saves. I'll take it. Okay, so let me relaunch that code, and while it relaunches, whoa. I'm gonna click on, no. I'm gonna click on collision zone here, and just point out to you that yes, now I have this thing called respawn position, so I can drag ball spawn position into the ball's respawn position each time. Ball spawn, ball spawn. Great, it's wonderful. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and reset ball this way at the very least. So other.gameObject.transform is equal to respawn position. The game object this component is attached to. Oh wait, we can do this dot position is equal to respawn position dot position. There we go. So we can do this one. So other.gameObject.transform.position is equal to respawn position dot position. So let's go ahead and test this out. What this should be doing now that we've hooked it up with that goal script attached to the goal, that goal set up as a trigger. It says when that ball comes in there, I see that it has a tag of ball. I'm gonna move it back to whatever is set as this respawn position, which is that little orange dot for me right now. Oh wait, it's playing. I guess the hard part is trying to get it into the goal. The guy went to the goal, but not this dude. Let's make this easy on me for now. Out of here. Oh, it's difficult. Hey, you're going in, whether you like it or not. Maybe. No, it should be happening. So I'm definitely. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So you'll see that it respawned when it hit. So we're getting that first bit of visual feedback. We've learned how to respawn things, which really isn't a matter of spawning. For the most part in video games, it's actually just a matter of moving things back in position. The other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull this out because it's becoming quite clear to me that we can actually see all the game inside of our game, as long as we're in 16:9 mode at the very least. Cool. So now we have our soccer respawn happening. The next thing, let's go ahead and make like the world's crappiest particle effect to play when this happens. Yeah, so game object, particle system. Again, it just keeps putting those systems in like the worst possible place. So let's bring this particle system up, and I want it to look like an explosion of confetti. It's not going to look perfectly like that because I'm not going to put in that much work onto this. I'm probably not even going to make an asset for it, to be completely honest, like a material for it, because I'm way too lazy. But let's modify this a little bit. So first off, it's not looping. Oh, actually, let's let it loop here right now at the very least. So I'm going to let it loop, simulate, and do its thing. Because right now what I want to do is make it gravity modifier 1, so it looks like things are coming down. Let's up its speed. It's not terrible. Let's try, it had 5 originally, let's try 10. It's a little bit better. Simulation space local, that's fine. Simulation speed is local, that's fine. Velocity over lifetime. What I want is force over lifetime. Like I want an explosion. External forces, don't care about that. Oh, what the issue is shape. I don't want a cone, I want a sphere. A sphere is going to give me directions. Like the cone, the shapes that you have here describe the direction in which they move. So this says they can only kind of like spawn in this thing and move kind of in this original direction that I have here. So if I do like a hemisphere, it's going to spawn in this kind of circular upwards motion. If I do a full sphere, you can see that they can spawn in any direction, which is a lot closer to what I'm looking for. The other thing that I want is start color, and I don't want it to be a single color, so I'm going to drop it down, just do random color for now. Hey. Kind of do random between 2 colors. Give me this color and that color. You know, I'll accept that for now. It at least looks kind of festive. Hooray! So now we have our particle effect here. Let me shrink this down a bit. Sphere radius 0.2. I like that. Can't tell. Let's go back to cone. Yes, that's much closer. That's actually really close to what I'm looking for. It looks kind of dumb. Make that. Whoa, radius, you're far too big now. Cool. Nice. Okay, so we'll go with that. That kind of has what I'm looking for. Where's my start speed? Okay, and we'll go with the start speed of 10 here. Start rotation, randomize rotation, gravity modifier 1. Okay, I like that. So I'm gonna do a gravity modifier 2 for this. Awesome. So now we've got that going on. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm actually going to go ahead and on it have it not be looping. So it's actually not playing normally. And for this particle system, actually I think particle system's just fine for what it is. I'm going to drag and drop it onto, which goal am I currently on, in fact? Goal 1. So I'm going to drag it onto the one that I was currently kind of testing around. So there's particle system. And just like I did before, hit apply on that to apply it to both goals. So now both goals have a particle system associated with them that just currently is not doing its thing. It's not looping. Let's look real fast to make sure it's actually not doing its thing. It is. Don't do that. So it doesn't loop, it just plays. Still isn't what I want. Duration 5. Start delay. Start lifetime. Duration 0. Duration 0 for that one too. Click play. Okay, so now they're not playing. I've got their durations blip, like 1 comes out. Just when I come back to click on it, it says, I work. Cool, but that's exactly what we're looking for because we're going to control this programmatically instead. So let's come back into our code here, and inside of our goal script, I'm going to make a public particle system. Or is it particle emitter? Yeah, particle emitter. So public particle emitter, P emitter. Emitter. Right? And then inside of start, P emitter is equal to, actually, since it's public, I don't even need it inside of start, because I'm just going to customize that. So then the next thing down here is place in particles, question mark. We're going to say P emitter dot, there's about 3 different ways in which it can be done. And I can't remember which way is which anymore. Unity. Yeah, okay, so it's not emitter. Public particle system, yeah. And then I call this P system. So public particle system, and I call it, hey, P system. So I call it P system. And then down here, P system dot emit, capital E. And how many do you want it to explode? Let's try 100. Okay, so what this says is just go ahead and make me 100 particles and let them go. I might have screwed this up with my lifetime because I've done this differently in the past, and I make things up too much as I go along, which is just how I live my life. Oh, dang, okay. There goes the 1. Duration, let's put that up to 5 again. Start delay, start lifetime. I mean, that's the thing, is it shouldn't be running then. Play on awake, there we go, okay. So it's not looping, and then also turn off play on awake. I hate that that's all the way down there. Cool. So now they won't play on awake, which is the same thing with sound. They make sound play on awake too, which is just dumb. The variable P system of goals, oh yeah, that's the other issue. All right, so make sure that you don't have play on awake on. Your duration could be whatever. So play on awake is turned off. Looping is also turned off. And then come up to your collision zone. And on your collision zone for both of them, you have this thing called P system now. So collision zone, there's a particle system right next to it. I'm going to drag and drop it on there. Same thing for goal 1. There's my collision zone. There's a particle system that's right next to it or is in the same goal object as it. I'm going to drag and drop that onto there. Go ahead and give that a run. Get this ball into its intended location. Boom. And you have oh man. And then you have a whole bunch of explosion particles explode out real fast, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Now, there's an issue here that you might have seen, right? Is that when that ball resets position, it did not reset its velocity. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say other.gameObject dot get component. We're going to look for its rigid body because it has a rigid body attached to it. Dot velocity is equal to new vector 3. So we're just going to set it equal to a new vector 3. New vector 3 is 3 0, so it's just going to zero out all of the motion of that thing. Come in. included in, kaboom, and now the ball falls exactly in the middle. It does get a little bit of motion, right, due to it falling to the ground and the other forces are applying to it, but we've got that set up now. Cool. All right, so the next thing here that I have sitting on the list, and the final thing that I wanted to get us to for today, and it looks like we're, even with my little temporary distractions, just about on time anyway, is incrementing score and playing with score in general. And this is going to get us to the concept of the game controller again that we, I think, just briefly introduced before. But again, a controller is this thing that kind of sits on the outside of all your game code and allows all your different pieces of your game to like talk to it, and then it orchestrates all the rest of your interactions for you. So here, what I'm going to do for that is almost all of my games have some sort of object in them. I'm going to make it empty, and I'm going to call this game controller. Awesome. So almost all my games have something like this. This object that's sitting there that kind of like controls all this external interaction. And then for that, I'm also going to need a script. So let's go to right click, create script, new C# script, game controller, boom. We got our game controller, and let's go ahead and open that up, reload solution. Hopefully it will actually let me save this time. And while the first things I'm going to put on game controller here is a public int score. And we did score before, so we're going to do something very similar this time. I forget which way I did game controller before. There's a singleton way, and there's a way that requires essentially querying for it every single time. We're going to do it the way that requires querying for it every single time, though. So void add int amount. So void add score int amount. Awesome. And then we're going to say score plus plus for now, or score is equal to score plus amount. And then back here, what we're going to do in this case, since we can architect this way, since our things aren't like popping in and out of existence all that much, is inside of goal script in our start, or not in our start, but at the very top, I'm going to make a private, do I just want to be game controller? I can actually do this. A private game controller, and I'm going to abbreviate G controller, because I'm just terrible at variable names. I don't follow my own rules for variable names, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't follow my rules for variable names, which is name them things that make sense. And then inside of start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set G controller equal to game object dot find. And this is an expensive call, so this is why I'm putting it inside of start. I do not tell, like, this is something you should not put inside of like an update function. But game object dot find, and because I named this object game controller with a capital G and capital C, as long as I spell this the exact same, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy that to show you that I'm going to spell it the exact same. I found that object, and I can write dot get component game controller. And so now I have a reference to that game controller script, and it's sitting here inside of my start function doing the thing it needs to do, whatever that thing may be. The issue, of course, right now is that that's not going to work because game controller doesn't have the game controller script on it. So let's go ahead and attach that to game controller. So no, game controller should have the game controller script. And then inside increment score, I can say G controller dot add score. That's what I called it, right? Oh, it needs to be a public void. Public void add score. So G controller dot add score. You should be happy now. Be happy. There we go. Add score. And I assume every soccer, every one successful soccer is worth 1 point. So we'll do that. Cool. So that's going to add an amount, and then this is something that I think we did this before. The final step of this particular game that we're going to do for now. How long has this been? Yeah, that's going to be for now. So this is the last step. We're gonna do the UI for these particular scores. And we actually need 2 UIs now, right? So, or 1 UI with several elements on it. So I'm gonna go up to game object, 2D object, no, UI. We're gonna add text. And then we're gonna get into 2D mode, and we are going to double click on the text to get up to our UI look. You can see over here in my game view, this is actually what it looks like. I'm gonna put my player scores here at the very top. Hey, when did my, whatever, I'll get back to that in a second. And I'm gonna change this to P1, is that 0? And I'm gonna change that color to white, which will look decent in a second. And I'm gonna duplicate that. So this is gonna be P1 score, and then duplicate. This will be P2 score, P2 score. Let's move that text field over to the left or right. P2 is also at 2 right now. And in fact, I architected this wrong, right? Because I just added score. I didn't add a player 1 and player 2 score. We'll fix that in a second. So now we have our P1 and P2 scores. My game controller needs to know about this though. Let's hop into game controller. Public. Oh, yeah. So before we can do that, right, we need to tell Unity what text is essentially. So we're gonna write using Unity engine .ui, and that allows us to use text fields and all that kind of fun stuff. And then down here inside of public void add score, we've got score plus equals score amount, which doesn't make sense. In fact, what I want is 2 things: int amount, comma, int player. I think it actually makes more sense for this to go in this direction. So int player, comma, int amount. So we know who's the player, and then who are we adding it to. In this case, there is a better structure for this, but I'm just going to make this P1 score and P2 score. If you've been through some of my classes, right, you probably have this sense that an array is a much better way of doing this. So public void start. Inside of start, I'm just going to set P1 score equal to 0 to make sure it's 0, and P2 score equal to 0. So we make sure we're starting off at 0s. And now, if player double equals 1, else. All right, so this is not ideal code. It makes a lot more sense again to do a whole bunch of array magic here so it's more maintainable, but I think for this case it's going to work just fine. So if player double equals 1, well, we're going to be manipulating player 1 score. If player double equals 2, then we're going to be manipulating player 2 score. So P2 score equals P2 score plus amount. And the final thing that we need to do here then is, now that we've re-architected this into a player 1 and player 2 thing, and we've imported that Unity engine.ui, we're going to make a public text P1 or txt P1 score, and then a public text txt P2 score. So we've got references to our text field on the page now. Page, game page, whatever we want to call it. We've got references to that. And inside of here, I'll say P1 txt P1 score is equal to, what did we call this in our game again? It was just P1 and P2. So P1 colon space plus P1 score. Down here, txt P2 score is equal to P2 plus equals, or plus P2 score. Awesome. Oh, you're mad. I need to turn you into text.toString. .toString. Oh, you're still mad. Probably because this needs to be .text, I'm guessing. Yeah. So the set of text, not the object itself, but the text inside of the object to the 1 and 2 score. Great. Wonderful. Cool. So there's one last question actually that we have here is, how do we know which player won? We don't actually, because Goal has no knowledge of whose thing it is. So for now, we're just gonna say, let's always add the player 1 just to test the script out at this point. Let's come back and let that recompile. So in the lower right-hand corner, it's gonna chug and recompile for a second. And then click on everybody's exciting favorite game controller. And you'll see there's 2 new things here, TXT P1 score and TXT P2 score. I'm gonna drag in from canvas, P1 score and P2 score. And let's just go ahead and start scoring a couple goals here on the first object. So I'm going to click player, and then I'm going to run in and get a score, and you'll see that my score up there is going up. Great. The last thing I want to do for this then, for today, is get it so that both players are playing. Also, or both players are scoring. Also, this is driving me insane. But my wall, for whatever reason, background, got too small, and I'm just gonna scale up a little bit. Much better. There. So now we need a way for these goals to know who, which player they're representing. So I'm gonna click on goal, and since my script is actually inside of the collision zone itself, I'm gonna come down to the collision zone. And I'm gonna keep that up for a second because I need to edit the script. I could actually edit it by clicking this little drop-down link too and saying go into goal script. And up here, since I need something else that's kind of configurable by the game designer, I'm going to come up and write public int player, maybe even player num. Save that. So we've now got a public integer player num. We're going to come back, let it recompile, and then up here, there's now a player num. So I don't know. This is player 1, right? So we're actually going to make this 2 because that means that player 2 is going to score if he gets it in there. And then we're assuming this is player 2's goal over here. Yes. So I'm going to click on this one now. Come down to its collision zone and add this as player 1. So if anything goes in there, it's going to add a score to player 1. So let's give this a quick try. And we're going to score a goal in each to see how it goes. Let's come in. I'm especially slow now. Something is slowing my computer down quite a bit. Wow. Let's replay that because that is affecting my performance. Oh my gosh. Wow. Oh, good, we're just about at the end here. Chunk. Okay, so we've got a score. Player 1 scored once. Let's let player 2 score once. We're actually backwards too. Also, I haven't coded that up yet, right? So I have this player num here, but it's still always adding player 1. Let's do that. So gcontroller.add score. Now we're using that player num that we customized through the UI. All right, let's do this before my computer slows to a halt, because that's going to be awful. Get it in. Score that goal. Boom. All right, so player 2 has scored a goal on player 1. Awesome. Let's try controlling the other player. Oh, he is fast. Too fast. Uh-oh. I don't know if I can score a goal with him because he's impossible to control. Yeah, there we go. Cool. All right, so we've scored a goal on each of them. We're seeing those goals being scored there. Again, what I'm trying to show here is like taking a lot of these little pieces that we've learned about in class and beginning to put them together into a more workable situation. I think I'm going to break this one or continue to build this one a little bit more in class next week also. But for now, that's gonna be it. Because I don't really want to. I want to do like destructible objects. I want to do a little bit of sound. I want to do a little bit of like extra keyboard interaction, which requires some colliders, and I don't want to get into that right now. This will be good. So please get this up and working. Study this. Think about how this works, how you might improve upon these particular situations. We'll meet in a week.